Winter 2022 is in full swing and the new seasons of Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer have not disappointed. They came into this season as the two most hyped animes to start off the new year. And there's of course Dress of Darling, which has taken the internet by storm for its amazing character development. It's a really well written coming of age story that has the viewers glued to their screen at every moment. And let's not forget, it has the best waifu of the season. With these three animes garnering the most attention, there are some gems out there that some people may have completely missed. How's it going, everyone? I'm a mess, and today I would like to talk about this gem, In the Land of Leadale. In the Land of Leadale is about a terminally sick girl who is on life support. She spends most of her time in bed unable to move. So she ends up spending that whole time playing this fully immersive dive VR game called Leadale. Since it's a dive VR game, she is actually in the virtual world, granting her simulated movements since her real body is completely immobile. One day, a citywide power outage cut off her life support, which resulted with her passing away, which I immediately call BS on. As someone who works in the medical field, I know for a fact that hospitals have a backup generator that would instantly kick in if the power goes out. Any person on life support has at least 1 to 2 minutes of being off of life support before their brain dies from lack of oxygen. Anyways, back to the show. Our protagonist wakes up in an inn and she quickly figures out that she's in the game. A, because she could move her limbs around, and B, she's no longer Japanese. She's now a blonde-haired elf just like her character in the game. So far, we have the typical isekai into a video game setting, and just like every other video game isekai out there, when the protagonist becomes their character, they keep their previous stats, making them stupid OP. So, what makes this different from the rest? Well, in the Land of Leadale, the protagonist awakens 200 years after their previous login, so the world is completely different from how they remember it. The protagonist decides to blend in by referring to herself as her video game character, Kana. She then goes around trying to learn more about the world, only to discover that her home base is the home of a dangerous witch who had single-handedly destroyed an army 200 years ago, who is simply known as the Witch of the Silver Ring. Upon hearing this, Kana's face turned red and remembered the last time she played, she wiped out a player group who had pissed her off. In the flashback, we see like a robotic ring around her, which is probably her greatest weapon, item, artifact thing, which is what probably earned her that really embarrassing nickname. She was also shocked to learn that the townsfolk viewed her as an evil witch. This led her to secretly go to her home base in order to gain more information about the world from her guardian. The guardian is an NPC who guards a skillmaster's home base. So far, it hasn't been stated what a skillmaster is, but it seems like a title that a player earns once they've reached a certain level. And of course, Kana had already earned that title along with the Silver Tower home base and a guardian. Anyways, after entering the tower and confronting her guardian, she learned that he was actually really annoyed that she had left them alone for 200 years. He was talking with a really bad attitude and threw in the occasional insult here and there. Kana just ignored the insults for the time being. Then her guardian informed her that someone named Scargo came looking for her a while back. When she couldn't remember who that was, her guardian got really annoyed and said that she's finally become a senile old hag. Kana didn't take too kindly to this, because in response she pulled out a magic staff and threatened to blow him up. This kind of explains why people see her as an evil witch. She has a very short temper and will respond with violence immediately. This does play a pivotal role later on in the series, and not in the way you would expect. It actually causes some really hilarious moments that I'm not going to spoil, so you just have to watch the series to see it. Anyways, the guardian tells her that Scargo is actually her son, which she responds how you would expect. She freaks out wondering when did she have a kid. She hadn't even been in a relationship yet. Where does a kid come into play? She then remembered that the game had a foster system where you could spend IRL money to adopt an NPC as a child, who can then earn you in-game currency over time. Scargo was her eldest son, and she remembered that she also adopted 2 younger siblings for him. Seeing as how he came looking for her, she decided to go pay him a visit. When she returned to the inn to see if anyone had any information on him, she was shocked to hear that he was actually one of the most influential people in the kingdom. He was the high priest who was second only to the king. So it's just one shocking piece of information after the other. And the story just gets goofier and goofier. Now, everything I just discussed is from the first episode alone, and the second one is just as funny. Now, the comedy aspect of the show is what drew me in, but what keeps me coming back is how the story is told. Granted, it is an isekai, but it doesn't feel like one. But there are enough elements there to not make me question why it is one. We have the protagonist who was teleported into the video game world 200 years into the future, with their previous in-game exploits creating a legend within the neighboring towns. Of course, the protagonist isn't this cold-hearted monster they envisioned her to be. Well, she kind of is when she gets mad, but that's besides the point. She's just a normal girl who was suddenly placed in this extraordinary position. She tries to keep things normal and calm, but with her skills and abilities, she takes things way beyond the norm. The best way I could describe this show is that it's a fantasy slice of life without forgetting about the fantasy part. Another show that I would describe in a similar way would have to be I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level. Only thing is I felt like this show didn't really capitalize on the fantasy aspect. It did the slice of life well, but the fantasy part was just there because the writer wanted this to be an isekai. I'm not saying that it was unnecessary, but it wasn't a necessity either. The writer could have placed it in any genre and still have told the same story. What I'm trying to say is that Killing Slimes for 300 Years focused more on the slice of life and didn't mind the fantasy aspect as much as it should have, while Leadale feels like it fits into the fantasy setting. It's supposed to be there, and it works out really well. The protagonist is actually experiencing what it means to be isekai'd, with the traveling and exploring to the battles against monsters. It's all there, but it's not at the forefront. The story revolves around Kana's interactions with the people she meets, as well as her just continuing to blow everyone away with her just being herself. Herself being a 200-year-old high elf who is also feared as one of the most powerful beings in history, who also so happens to be the mother of the most influential figure in the country. There's still more to Kana's character, but that starts getting into spoiler territory, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I hope this video has introduced you to a new series to watch this season. With shows like AOT, Demon Slayer, and Dress Up Darling drawing in all of the attention this season, there are a couple of shows out there that are going under the radar. And I think it's a shame people are missing these series just because no one is talking about them. There is one more series coming out this season that I think you should all check out, but I'm going to be talking about it in my next video. So with that, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and remember to keep having fun. See ya!